one of Africa's smallest yet most geopolitically strategic nations. Our focus today turns to the Seychelles, where the presidential contest is heading for a runoff. In the first round, held last week, neither candidate cleared the 50% threshold. Opposition leader Patrick Herminie secured 48.8%, whilst incumbent Wavel Ramkalawan trailed closely behind with 46.4%. Now, the runoff is scheduled for October 9 to the 11th and will determine who leads the archipelago for the next 5 years. On paper, the Seychelles is known as a tropical tourism haven, one of Africa's richest per capita, and a poster child for environmental excellence. But behind the scenes, behind the beaches and luxury resorts, lie serious political, social, and security challenges. A worsening heroin crisis, worries over leasing of land to foreign developers, climate vulnerability, and questions around governance and sovereignty. Well, to help us unpack what's at stake, we're now joined this morning by Dr Oscar Van Heerden, who's a research associate at the University of Johannesburg Centre for Africa Diplomacy and Leadership. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Peter, and good morning to your viewers and listeners.
All right. Perhaps, Seychelles, most people know it as beaches and holidays and not much else. And maybe we can start by getting I don't know if you can sketch a brief political and socioeconomic background of the country. What do we know about Seychelles beyond its beaches?
Peter, it's one of our smallest countries on the continent. Seychelles, it's population of about only 120,000 people. So not very much, not very big. But as you've said, I think some of the broader foreign policy positions from both parties and all those that competed in this last election is non-alignment in the main. Try to not take sides and so forth. But unfortunately, the small island population are plagued by heroin. It's plagued by environmental factors, as most island nations are. And then, of course, because it is such a big, attractive tourist destination, there's always competition around the leasing of land, foreign developers coming in, hotels being built, and who are the beneficiaries of that. These are the contentious issues. Now, according to the World Bank, very briefly, socioeconomically, the general population is much more well off than your average African from other countries. But that certainly doesn't take away from the fact that there are some huge socioeconomic challenges in the Seychelles.
So when we look at Patrick Herminie and Wavel Ramkalawan, what does it tell us about the politics of the country? Is it two main parties that have been battling over the years? What's the state of play?
Indeed, it is two main parties. United Seychelles Party, as some of your viewers might know, had been in power since 1977 and only lost power in 2020. So 5 years ago, they lost. And I think, there was a sea change, a winds of change. I think a great many of the Seychelles citizens wanted change from a party that had been in power for so long. And that's when the LDS party came in. They've given them a chance of 5 years, and that's the incumbent that wants to now go for a second term, but evidently did not do a fantastic job because none of them could get the 50% plus majority, and that's why there's now a runoff. The last time this happened was in 2015, and it did demonstrate, Peter, a serious division within the citizenry of the Seychelles.
So, the first round, Patrick Herminie slightly edged Ramkalawan. Does that translate into what might be a victory then in the runoff?
Not precisely. We must also bear in mind that It is the United Seychelles Party, Ramkalawan party, that actually won the majority of seats in the parliament. So they already now have control of the House, and yet the incumbent is not winning the race. So no, I don't think that's going to be a factor. I think that what they would want to see over the 2 days, from the 9th to the 11th, is an outright winner.
So what then might convince the citizens between October 9 and 11 to vote for either one?
I think that both candidates will have to go and hit the ground running. They need to go and convince their various supporters why they need to be the president. I think it's going to be a bit of an uphill for the candidate of the United Seychelles Party, only because they've been given so many decades to try and run the island for so long. And I think ultimately people are going to stick to the LDS and say, let's give the incumbent a second term before we judge.
And you mentioned this issue of drug abuse, heroin in particular, drug addiction. Did any of the presidential candidates talk about how they were going to deal with this?
Not in any significant and precise manner. I mean, of course, both of them acknowledge that there is this problem with the inflow of illicit drugs, particularly heroin, and that it needs to be taken care of. It needs to get rid of, particularly in the streets amongst the young people. But no one really coming up with any clear, tangible plan as to how they are going to do this.
Herminie himself once chaired the Agency for the Prevention of Drug Abuse and Rehabilitation, and I guess what it's saying is that he couldn't solve the problem then. He probably won't be able to do it now.
I think this is one of the factors that are counting against him, to be honest. People are aware that he occupied that particular position. There's still this problem. It does mean that the leadership was not there, the requisite leadership was not there to deal with the issue. And I think that could potentially, be something that weighs against him. However, I do think that, as you've indicated, Peter, he is the candidate that's edging just slightly ahead. And who knows, he might tilt the scales.
Yeah, another issue is this story of land, foreign investment and sovereignty, especially things like the long-term lease of Assumption Island to a Qatari firm. Was this an election issue?
Absolutely. This was a big issue. There's lots of controversy around the deal. Who's benefiting from it? Is it really going to be helpful to allow the Qataris to actually build this big hotel? And it's also obviously an issue of job creation and so forth. So no, it loomed very large on the election agenda because people felt that there was all kinds of untowardness with regards to the deal with the Qataris.
All right, I guess as a final question, beyond the runoff, whoever wins the presidency, what do they need to do in this term for, I guess, long-term stability for the island?
I think similarly to our situation here at home, Peter, they've got issues of unemployment. They've got issues of drugs, which then leads to crime and so on. This is not a good thing for a destination where people from all over the world comes to their wonderful and amazing beaches and so forth, tourism and the likes. So both candidates will have to convince the electorate why they are the candidates that's going to be able to deal effectively with some of these challenges.
Who do you think is going to win?
I do think that LDS party's Herminie is going to edge over the line, in my opinion.
Okay, we'll have to wait and see. Thank you so much indeed for giving us some insights into the political life of the Seychelles and in particular these elections.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you. That's Dr. Oscar Van Heerden, a research associate at the University of Johannesburg Centre for African Diplomacy and Leadership, giving us some insights on the Seychelles elections.
this September.